Hi, everyone. My name is Heather. Welcome to the Association for Short-Term Rental Homeowners Expert Q&A session this morning. We're here with Monique from Futurestay and Paul from Guesty. And there we go, thanks. And then we're going to let them speak here in a second. But before we dive into our topic of the day, property management systems, distribution, connectivity, direct book websites, kind of all this marketing or operation capability, I'm going to talk a little bit about the association for those of you that are joining us today and it's your first time attending an Astro event. So we'll jump into a slide deck here to guide today's session. And Paul and Monique, can you see this okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. So we'll dive right in. So the Association for Short-Term Rental Homeowners is a professional society focused on education, professional development for short-term and vacation rental homeowners. So we think of homeowners in three buckets. One is you aspire to own a home, so you're looking for resources on how to make the investment. The second is you own a home, you self-manage it, or rental by owner. The third is you own a home and you're looking for resources on how to find a property management or hospitality management company to run the home for you. And so this slide here is just an example of our public-facing website where we're sharing free content, articles, sessions like this expert Q&A. And then once you become a member, and membership is just $10 a month or $100 for the year, you have access to individual topics to organize looking at information and finding resources. And our goal here is that, this really makes it easier than trying to navigate Facebook. I know that's where a lot of folks are trying to find answers to questions. And then we also have courses. If you look here on the left, the topics, events like the one today, but we also offer courses that are for members only, where we dive deep kind of over the course of a week, bringing in experts to talk about specific topics. So just wanted to share that. And then we're working with lots of different organizations to provide education. So these are other lodging associations here on the left. Then you have educations with hospitality programs that we've partnered with. Penn State is a core partner right now, working on a research paper. And then obviously there are locally focused associations, many that are born out of like regulatory conversations happening. And our goal is just to support those members with education in any way we can. And then working with folks on the advocacy, thought leadership, and kind of media, current events side as well. So with that, that's a little overview of Astro. We'll dive in to learn more about our panelists today and into the topic. So Paul, I'll hand it over to you to tell us about Guesty.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much, Heather. And just wanted to say thank you very much for inviting Guesty and myself to participate in today's panel. So my name is Paul Jakauskas. I'm the Director of Customer Success for the Americas for Guesty. And
will you say your last name again?
Yeah, it's Jakauskas. So
great, thanks.
The way that my dad would always introduce himself in like corporate America was imagine cows at a zoo kissing. So zoo, cows, kiss. It's
okay. Very good.
Make it memorable, I guess. So some of you may be familiar with Guesty, but I imagine that some of the audience isn't. And so basically Guesty was built with the understanding that, these homeowners that are doing these short-term rentals have so many operational needs and so much complexity from end to end, and that this complexity actually really ranges across the gamut of marketing your units through communication with your guests, and then following up on all of the revenue management and the analytics that are needed to properly kind of streamline your business. And so where we really try to, where Guesty really tries to target its homeowner audience is in these automations of all these various different tasks and kind of creating this unified experience for your guests from kind of their revenue or from their booking date all the way through their check-in and check-out process. And basically what we're trying to do is save you time and energy in automating as much of these tasks as possible. Guesty offers a solution in each one of these key critical areas. But in addition to that, we also have a very robust marketplace. We understand that not everybody runs their short-term rental exactly the same way. And so What we want to make sure that we do is that we enable your own tech stack. So if you have preferred partnerships on either dynamic pricing or in operations and cleaning maintenance, we want to make sure that we still allow you to work with those while still using kind of our best-in-class tools, whether it's a unified inbox or a unified calendar. And so, I'm really looking forward to today's discussion, kind of hearing from Monique and from you, Heather, and just kind of, sharing some of our expertise or some of what we're seeing across the industry from Guesty.
One of the questions, or a few questions I want to just ask you to make sure we understand the product. So obviously you're providing connectivity to distribution channels, Airbnb, Vrbo, et cetera. Do you, and you're obviously sending availability rates inventory, that calendar management, I think, is a term we hear a lot. Do you also connect to content APIs so that amenity updates or descriptions are also distributed through updates, or is that something that you're still an owner with stuff to manage in the channel a little bit?
No, so you are able to manage all content updates through Guesty. What we have is direct integrations into Airbnb, Booking.com, VRBO, TripAdvisor, working on one for Expedia today. And you are able to kind of manage all of your content as from Guesty as that single source of truth, and then we will publish that content or push it to all the channels. So essentially, you don't have to update channel by channel. You can kind of streamline that operation directly in Guesty.
Okay, yeah, that's a tough one, and like mapping to amenities and things because they are so different on each channel. But that's good to know that you are. It's more comprehensive beyond just like availability and rates.
Yeah, and that's I know that our R&D team has really focused on over the course of the last few quarters. I know that just recently we released a new Airbnb integration in which we're able now to have a much more robust preferred partnership and connectivity into Airbnb, where we are able to be one of the few vendors that Airbnb is unlocking certain API access points to allow us to publish more content than some of the other kind of competitors in the space.
Yeah, maintaining those channel APIs is no joke with all the constant changes. So yeah, that's really interesting. Great to hear. One other question for you before we move on to Monique. Can you talk a little bit about website solution, Direct Book? Is that something you also offer?
Is that to Monique or to myself?
To you, sorry, Paul, staying with Guesty, just to clarify the product a little bit more.
Sure, yeah, and we do offer a direct booking website, and we do plug into our booking engine. I know that some of our larger accounts, that they'll still use our booking engine, but that they'll create a different theme or a front page to the website if they want to kind of create brand awareness or more of a branding theme that they have consistently across their own business. But we do offer website capabilities.
So for owners, also sometimes owners are pretty savvy. They've developed their own website, WordPress site with content. It's kind of that like unskinned, like you said, with their branding and their homes. That if I'm hearing you correctly, you can do either. You could build it from scratch with you, or they could bring their own and plug into your booking engine.
Yeah, so we have a templated theme that they can spin up on day one when they're using Guesty.
Okay.
We also offer a very robust API, and so some of our more tech-savvy customers will leverage a lot of our own in-platform API endpoints to kind of create their own custom website experience. So depending on how high class or how simple you want to go, we can kind of cater to both of those solutions.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for that clarification. All right, let's move on, Monique. We'll hand it over to you to talk about Futurestay.
Great. Hi, everyone. We're really excited to be here. My name is Monique Kandau. I am the Director of Partner Success at Futurestay, and we're excited to be part of the panel along with Gusty, and hope to share more insights about what we've been working on and how we can offer a great solution to small rental owners out there. So I'll give a quick overview of what Futurestay is, and really who we are servicing in terms of the short-term rental industry, and some of the challenges that we help to overcome within the industry. Futurestay is the operating system for short-term rentals. What does that mean? It means we're giving short-term rental owners and independent owners the structure that they need to meet the expectations of a very fragmented industry. That includes end-to-end reservation automation, smart optimization of your pricing and your content, as well as some additional hospitality integrations that will be coming later in the year, such as noise prevention, smart locks, things like that. The other piece of it is that our operating system gives independent owners the access to industry demand to the distribution points that they want to be on, meeting all the leading OTAs. We also offer dynamically generated booking engines that give you the ability to drive and own that direct business as well, and give you avenues to driving the business on platforms and sites such as Google. So Futurestay, where our sweet spot is and where we really focus is addressing the challenges of independent owners and hosts who actually represent a really significant portion of the short-term rental industry. So 60% of the inventory is actually run by these independent owners, and it represents a very, very fast-growing segment of the industry. But the fact is, and what's so ironic about it, is that this really big segment is actually very underserved when it comes to the choices that they have in terms of technology solutions and ways of more efficiently and seamlessly running their business. Some of those challenges are because they can't afford more of the costly enterprise solutions, or they see something and it just seems a bit too complicated to get set up. It's going to take too much time. And so what that means is it leads to a very low percentage of these owners actually having technology that they're using to give them connectivity to the places that they want to be on. So a Futurestay solution actually helps to solve a lot of those challenges, because we realize that smaller property managers, independent owners have a different set of needs than larger PMs that have the plus 50, plus 100 properties in their portfolio, and that they don't have, their time is money. So they don't necessarily have the time to invest in getting things set up and having to learn how to run, their PMS, plus their channel manager, plus their payment solution. So Futurestay really gives them everything they need in a single platform that provides the automation end to end. Part of it too, that what really makes it so easy to use Futurestay when you're coming in, whether it's one property or 50, is that we provide a very seamless onboarding process. So you can simply import your listings from any site that you're listed on, review your business rules, connect, and get bookings within the same business day. So again, really easy. There's not a long and lengthy onboarding process, and we find and we've heard that that's a challenge for a lot of people that are thinking of getting into the industry or looking for a solution to help them make things more seamless.
I love what you said about acknowledging how different this small business entrepreneurial audience is. And, what these owners are looking for is efficient, keeping it easy, simple, and, affordable.
Yep.
And so one of the trends we talk about too, just kind of overall in other sessions, and, as the organization looks at stats like the one you mentioned, 60% being self-managed. I've heard 50. That's the first time I've heard 60. Yeah, it's really exciting. Like that, the trend being that technology can empower these small business owners.
Yeah, and
they just go hand in hand. Yeah.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah, and I think that stat of the percentage is even ever growing, especially with the change in the landscape with the pandemic. Right, more people are looking to short-term rentals. More people are considering like, oh, I have this house. Why is it just sitting there? I'm not there. Let's rent it out. So you're going to continue to see that segment grow, both from the owner's side of it as well as the actual revenue that's coming through from travelers choosing these alternative accommodations.
And the other thing we talk about too that seems to come up in sessions is the more we can provide these kind of solutions, kind of up level the professionalism and ability to really execute, on a short-term rental, the more that supports like customer trust, regulatory conversations, that this is, this is a small business that communities should support. So it all, ties together in the end. But I did want to ask you a few more questions before we move on. You mentioned a direct booking engine. Can you talk a little bit about, could you bring your website, same question, or is Futurestay recommending kind of using what you have? Do you have like a website template solution?
Yep, it works both ways. If you have an existing website, you can integrate the Futurestay booking engine into that. We're actually partnered in the app marketplace of Wix and Weebly, which are both widely used website builders. So that's oftentimes how our user base finds us, is because they're building a website for their property, or they're they're a small vacation rental business and they want a booking engine. In Wix, for example, the only other solution is the Wix hotel app, which doesn't really service the needs of vacation rentals. So, that is one way, is to integrate it into your existing site. Or we also, have a website builder within our platform, which dynamically generates websites. We have different templates. You can further customize it if you want, but it's, a very easy to use web builder that gets hosted at your domain of choice. And it's all tied to your platform and dashboard.
Very cool. Okay, thanks. And then one more question for you specifically, and then I'll have one for both of you before we move on. I promise. Sorry, this is a lot.
No, it's okay.
You mentioned distribution to Google. So that's a fairly new channel. It's still maybe arguably in its beta period, the Google for VR, Google Hotel Ads for VR.
Mm-hmm.
And that's different than what you see in the hotel shopping experience, kind of where Google's bringing in that in context, which has also been kind of debated with the OTAs, like, is Google trying to be an OTA? So that, as that conversation's happening, it's interesting though, as providers like yourself are building to that API. My question for you is, I think you said you are officially live on that. And then if I have my own website, say I have, a name for my property or properties, would you serve that up in Google so it's showing as like my brand, or are you serving up and does it show up kind of as like by Futurestay? Do you know how that works?
Yeah, right now it's showing by Futurestay, but we are working towards, down the road, it would be more branded. And, we obviously Google is, has been more on the forefront in terms of the vacation rentals. And it's something that everyone realizes is important, especially to drive the direct bookings. And so Futurestay can absolutely help with driving more of that traffic and direct bookings to the owners' businesses.
Do you have any stats on that you'd be able to share? Like, of all your channels, is Google now representing X percent?
I don't have the exact stat, but what I can say is that, over the last several months of the pandemic, the direct bookings and specifically what we've been seeing from Google has exponentially grown.
That's what's so interesting. I guess that's a good thing to clarify with folks, that this product is really like a meta. So
Mm-hmm.
for folks looking at their channel distribution, this shows up as a direct booking.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a way to drive traffic to get that direct booking. Really interesting. Yeah. Thanks for that clarification. And then just one more question for both of you. Paul, I'll start with you. Does Guesty offer trust accounting? Like, if I use Guesty, do I need Quickbook, or does Guesty really offer kind of a robust enough solution on the operation side?
That's a great question. And Guesty has uncovered the need for trust accounting, and something that we took on as a major initiative about a year ago was rebuilding our entire accounting module from scratch. We brought in a lot of kind of subject matter experts, a lot of accountants for STR kind of property management companies. And we asked them kind of, how would you rebuild an accounting module moving forward into the future? And so right now we're in the early stages of kind of our MVP and our beta. We haven't fully rolled out our trust accounting solution, but it is on our roadmap, and it's the next large step that we're going to be taking in our accounting module. So it isn't there right now, but we are actually we are doing a lot of really innovative things as far as creating unique business models for the various different types of property managers that are out there, whether they're owners, whether they're working on a property management agreement, or whether they're lease arbitrage. And then we have the ability to kind of customize kind of the rev share model. So you get elements of trust accounting, but it's not fully baked in yet with the escrow account needs that you'll have in a trust account.
And then for Futurestay, Monique, can you speak about the ops accounting capability a little bit?
So in terms of the accounting and financial, we have a financial hub where you have reports that you'd be able to utilize to kind of import into your accounting tools to help manage all of that.
Okay, great. Yes, and obviously people have different concerns about what they would want out of the financial, and really depending on folks' pain points that may be more or less important to them, right? As with all of this. But the purpose of this session, thank you. Now I feel better kind of knowing more about your products as we go through these just general like best practices and questions folks can ask as they're looking at technology. So This first section that we're going to discuss is just about the systems overall and the terminology property management software or system versus revenue management software system, and then what are the capabilities you can expect. Like Monique said, Futurestay is using the term operating system, and then there are different ways tech stacks can come together. Maybe you're using just a channel and not any other system for starters, but you're looking to expand and grow your distribution, so that starts to look different. And then you see here on the left is keyless entry, right? There could be housekeeping or specific operational kind of pieces of tech, and those could plug in to the left, or they could plug in even over to the right directly into the PMS, which is kind of what you had mentioned, Paul. Mm-hmm. So we just wanted to lay out kind of how to think about technology for folks and a little bit of a visual. And what are your thoughts? This is a question we ask a lot of people. It can be really overwhelming to figure out what technology I need as a short-term rental homeowner. So what would you say are the most important questions an owner should ask when selecting property management or marketing operating system technology? I'll add that in there too. Do you want to start, Monique?
Sure. I mean, I think kind of just the most basic questions when you're thinking about what solutions are right for your business are obviously the main goals are growing your business, right? Streamlining your operations and saving you time. When it comes to to the tech stacks and different technology solutions, it really depends on the size of your business and what your role in it is as well. A lot of independent owners, this is not their day job, so they need a solution that's not going to take up the full time of their day because they're actually working another full-time job. So I think it's really important to understand what do you want your technology solution to do for you, right? You want it to help to automate things. You want it to help. At Futurestay, we say we take a property manager's long to-do list of manual tasks and we turn it into a done list because our end-to-end platform is taking care of all of that for them. So I think at the end of the day, it's really what are some things that you don't want to do or that you don't know how to do that you need technology to help you perform in order to make your business run efficiently and also be productive and drive revenue.
That's great. Thanks. And then Paul, let's go to you.
Yeah, Monique, I think you touched on a really good point right at the end where you were talking about what are the aspects that I may not want to do. And said another way, I think that you have to look at what are your strengths and your weaknesses in your operations. If you have a marketing background, let's say that is your day job, marketing. Maybe you're not looking for a solution that can really kind of aid you in that kind of pursuit because you're already going to have that in your own expertise. But I think what you want to do is target what are the areas that I'm exceptional at, whether it's customer communications, whether it's being very organized and diligent in my calendars, and recognize the areas where you could use some improvements, such as financial reporting or accounting. And I think that those gaps is where you should probably focus your search originally. Additionally, obviously, as a homeowner and as a small business property manager, you likely know the needs of your market. And I know that there are various different technical solutions out there, going all the way down to the niche level. Some AR solutions only serve certain, counties in Florida, for instance, because they have certain, regulation requirements, whether it is the trust accounting that we talked about earlier. And so I think it's understanding your market, understanding also your inventory, because whether you're working on a DR or whether you're working on a more urban type of, multi-unit property management, I think that there are different solutions that can cater to each one of those kind of different business types. And so, my suggestion, something that I always recommend to everyone, is that don't be afraid to go and talk to, every single property management company or property management software that you can find on the market. I think it's really important that you kind of hear what are the value add offerings of each one of these solutions, because everyone really kind of still focuses on their own best-in-class product and see, does their best-in-class match up with what your needs are on the operations side.
No, that's great. And I'll try to tie together a few things you both said. So Monique, you said, determining what is it that you want to automate. Or, Paul, you said too, like, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and kind of figuring out. And another way I've heard people say this too is, what are your biggest pain points? And ideally, those pain points might be with kind of the areas you feel weakest in, that are, just more difficult, challenging. And that if you can come up with the top 3 to 5 questions that or problems you want to solve for, and really focusing on those as you go kind of talk to vendors. Because if you try to learn everything about every technology, there's just no way, right? And like you both said, you have these roadmaps and you're enhancing all the time. So
yeah, and that touches on a really good point too. Just talking about the roadmap is understanding that that this whole PMS space and this whole kind of vertical and industry is still relatively new, and it has so much further to go in its technical advancement. And is your specific type of inventory being prioritized on the roadmap of whatever PMS that you're choosing? And then also, are they partnering with you on the support side? Are you going to have that 24/7 global coverage, or are you going to be limited? Or is your vendor, in this case, a preferred partner of these large channels? So should Airbnb have a major issue, or Booking.com or VRBO, do they have the necessary inroads within those larger organizations to kind of deliver solutions that you may need in a very short amount of time? So all important things to consider.
Well, that's great. Okay, I'll move on to the second section here. So the next one is Book Direct, which we touched on a little bit in the beginning, clarifying you both offer Book Direct solutions, website solutions, being able to bring to life a site within your platform, or also folks bringing their own site. And then we want to kind of go through kind of all of these different questions to ask about how these websites can be built. So we talked about, the booking engine API, and in some cases, it can be via an iCal. So maybe we talk about that a little bit. System generated templated websites, which we talked about again at the beginning. Cost of the website is an interesting one, because we're seeing lots of different models out there, whether it's the flat fee you pay for your subscription to the software every month just goes up, or maybe it's a percentage of booking. So only if you get a booking through the platform do you pay, or maybe a flat fee per booking. And then SEO and meta tagging. So one of the watch outs that we've seen too is if your site is too simplified, or the template you're using doesn't have enough, maybe we can spend some time talking about the watch outs to really coming down to ensuring that if someone finds your property on a channel, can they search the name of your property and be able to find your site, and how that can work. So first question here, how can I evaluate the optimization strength of my website, that kind of SEO, and is my site good enough? And with that, maybe we'll start with you, Monique, again.
Yeah, no, great. I mean, I think the whole Book Direct topic is so pertinent, especially right now, because that is still representing a very significant portion of bookings, and more owners are wanting to own their guests and own the booking, just as different OTAs and platforms change their roles and change different commission structures and things like that. So definitely having a strong brand in your own site is absolutely important. And ensuring that while your website is a good representation of kind of building a brand, it's not just about your property. I mean, think of I came before my life at Futurestay. I came from the retail world, so I worked at places like Gap and Coach. So I still think of things like in terms of products. So you think of your website as the storefront for your business, right? So someone goes there, they're not just looking at the property itself. They want to know, what is their experience going to be staying with you as a host at your property in the region. So that's definitely something to think about too. It's your listing on a platform is on like an OTA is all about the property, and your website's really giving that holistic experience. One other thing to keep in mind with a website also is that, to your point, Heather, people are oftentimes trying to find people's sites after they found them on an OTA. So that's why having that broad presence across the board is really important. Thinking of it like a billboard effect, where someone might find you on Expedia, or someone might find you on Booking, but they kind of want to poke around and search a bit more, and they might land on your site. So ensuring that you have that consistent representation of your brand and your property and your business is very, very critical to ensure that no matter where someone finds you, they know that they're finding Heather's house.
What you said is really interesting. You kind of took it a step further too, with not only, technically is your site sound, and instant bookable, but that your personal brand comes through, right? And that when someone lands there, they trust that this is legitimate and that you actually can convert once they found you,
Right.
that branding aspect. And then let's go to you, Paul.
Sure. This is always an interesting topic for me when we're talking about direct booking websites. And the reason being is that in 2019, part of my team's initiative in the Americas was to get boots on the ground and go visit with as many of our clients as we can across the Americas. And one of the things that we heard in each one of those meetings when we were on site was this desire for brand awareness and to increase direct booking revenue. And it didn't matter the size of the company that we may be talking to. And Guesty serves, customers across various sizes, from, the individual owners who have 2 to 3 kind of properties, all the way to kind of some of the well-backed enterprise players with thousands of listings. This has been the common theme from 2019, and we took this product feedback, or this kind of need, and we carried it up to our R&D folks, and we said, how do we actually go about kind of enabling more direct bookings? And honestly, what we see is that no matter how many resources these our clients would put towards direct bookings, they always saw nominal growth there. And I think the people that are going to direct bookings are the people that understand that the OTAs take a significant portion of their accommodation fare, and they're looking for a 10% reduction in fee, that they know that if they could find that same listing on the direct booking channel, that they can avoid kind of those OTA fees and get a lower rate. And so for those reasons, we, this is going to sound weird, but for those very reasons, we see the booking engine as having to be serviceable, meaning that you're not going to differentiate your brand just based on the booking engine in the website. It needs to be a smooth and seamless experience, and it needs to offer all of the same kind of functionalities that people will get from the OTAs themselves. So you have the ability to add promotions or discounts based on the number of rates or the number of events booked. You're able to suggest alternative kind of listings that match similar criteria in the area. But as far as this unique branding experience on the direct website, we haven't seen a direct correlation to increasing direct bookings. On the other hand, though, what we are seeing is that people are able to actually boost direct bookings if they're able to market to their guests throughout their stay and within a very short amount of time following that stay. And I think this mid-stay marketing is really where you're going to drive the most direct bookings. Because unless you're very savvy in the Google AdWords and the marketing, especially if you're a small business operator, it's going to be difficult for you to compete on SEO or any kind of brand awareness with some of the larger players that are investing, millions of dollars in their own brand awareness and marketing campaigns. So you have to it really starts with that customer's experience. If it's solid in stay, then you're going to drive future direct bookings kind of moving forward. And I know that doesn't necessarily directly talk about how to optimize the booking website, but I'm just trying to drive the conversation saying what the trends that we're seeing.
No, I love it. You kind of segued into the kind of second question here, one part of it. So let's stay on that. So like you said, it's extremely hard to compete, right? You're not going to spend, thousands of dollars trying to, right? The ROI is just not going to be there. It will be less expensive to pay the commission to an OTA, right? But then organically, you still can only do so much, right? And it's still very competitive. But even if you do all those things right, the next part of the second question is, how do you maximize a book direct advantage, right? So to kind of repeat a few things you said, maybe rate, right? Or some kind of added value promotion, and making sure you have that capability on your own booking engine. Are you offering trip insurance? Are you offering payment plans potentially? Are these things, features within your site and your booking engine that will help drive the conversion and trust? And then the other one you mentioned too is a book direct advantage of, even if they haven't booked direct, can you drive it the next time with mid-stay marketing and maybe tracking your percentage of repeat guest? But maybe staying on that, maximizing the book direct advantage. Let's go back to you, Monique. Any more thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole, one of the main, two main things there, it's like book direct. You want to own your guests, right? You want to own their contact information. You want to build that. It's not, owning sounds so like crass, but you want to build a relationship with your guests, right? So that you can remarket to them, so that they think of you like, I want to go back to Heather's house every July to spend my week long there. So it's really about building and nurturing the relationship, and of course, essentially offering value to your guests, because you're eliminating that commission fee, right? So they're most likely always going to get your best price booking direct with you, versus if they're going to find you on an OTA.
Yeah, so really interesting to think through all of those different aspects to direct, and ultimately, right, the end game of even doing all of this is that it puts more money in your pocket as the short-term rental homeowner, and that the cost of acquisition is truly less. So I guess staying on that, the cost, and maybe the cost relates to the cost model of percentage of booking, flat fee. How should homeowners think about that? Like, which one's right for me? Is it important that I pick the right cost model? Do you want to stay? We'll stay with you, Monique. Do you want to talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, the whole, the question of whether to or to not have a website, I think, is more about considering the potential ramifications, or what you'd be missing out on by not having a website, right? So for sure, having a direct booking website is essential to your business, but there's a lot of different avenues and solutions to doing that. You don't need to necessarily hire a special web developer that costs thousands of dollars to build a website for you. It's finding the right solution, whether it's working with a website builder like a Wix or Weebly, where it's very easy to get started, or using the builder that comes with your software solution, whether it's Guesty or Futurestay. You don't have to invest a ton of money to be able to have a direct presence on the internet that drives the direct booking to you versus to an OTA. So it's really more about finding the solution that fits your business needs for the type of owner and manager that you are, and the resources that you have, and the investment that you have to put towards that.
And then to round it out, Paul, any other thoughts on cost and evaluating cost?
Yeah, I think that that Monique touched on it exactly. It's what do you feel comfortable with? I know for Guesty, our website builder is part of the standard package of your licensing cost. But if you are finding kind of solutions out there that are more percentage based on revenue that you're seeing from it, maybe that you're more comfortable with a percentage base, because you're not stuck on a flat fee that may start seeming expensive during low seasons, right? You're able to kind of mitigate your exposure if you're on a kind of a rev share model at that point. Something else that I wanted to touch on really quick is Monique had talked about when some of the value of the direct booking website is being able to actually capture your customers' information. And it's almost, for the longest time, it felt like Airbnb was kind of holding that back from its property managers, because it didn't want those PMs to be directly marketing to their.
And maybe I would add that's all channels to some extent.
That's
is conversations, just to clarify. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I talked about kind of that roadshow and some of the feedback that we heard that saying, how do I get to unlock my customers' information? Mm-hmm. Some of the features that Guesty rolled out were these automated check-in forms. So even after booking, we would send a check-in form that says, please provide your email, your phone contact information, what time you're planning on checking in, checking out. And that then populates a CRM. And then using kind of integrations with Zapier or MailChimp, you're able now to take that CRM information and start campaigning to kind of these recurring guests. And so there are really interesting ways in which you can still kind of, in a natural way, unlock some of that personal information from the OTAs, and then leverage it to try to use it for direct bookings kind of moving forward.
Yeah, really, really good point on the how do you move someone from booking through the channel to finding you direct next time if they're a guest who you can get back. All these different strategies and techniques. That's really great.
And then on top of that, it's this constant branding throughout the experience. So when you're sending an invoice, for instance, having your brand kind of match the invoice itself, or when they're in their unit or they are staying, having kind of branded kind of little pamphlets, or like I know some of our clients do branded soaps and various different kind of
oh no, don't get me started on that.
Like
the branded soaps. You're right. You're right. I mean, there are all these touch points throughout the entire guest journey that you can brand, right? But I guess staying with the owner side, I think it's less likely, right, that an owner may go that far. And actually, I want to counterpoint that in some other sessions and other articles we've seen, there's this advantage to the short-term rental homeowner who's more entrepreneurial, that is this kind of like personal branding on steroids that they can achieve that a larger management company would have a really hard time doing. So like that there's this, because the idea that a ridiculously personal experience drives loyalty and creates an emotional connection that would have someone come back again. So it's just an interesting thing to talk about the branding, and that branding for an owner versus a large property manager can look different and maybe should, and has these other benefits. But you're right, like thinking through things all the way down to like an operational touch point of soap. Is that right or wrong? Yeah, sorry. That's so funny because the soap is an interesting thing, because it's like, do you trust a brand of soap because it's a interesting, unique, like luxury brand versus soap that's branded something that's not typically. So it's a
We're not sure what's in the
soap. But you're right, Paul. In general, your point about just branding throughout the guest journey is a really cool exercise for anyone to map, no matter how big your portfolio. Mm-hmm. Sorry, any last thoughts on that? Didn't mean to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, just to close out the branding thing, I mean, like the fun part, I would say I'm not an independent property owner, maybe one day, but I think the fun part of it is, building that relationship with your guests and, having someone want to rebook with Heather versus just rebook Heather's property, right? They want to come back and stay with you. I know I've stayed at plenty of rentals where I really like the hosts and they had a great property, and I was like, I'd want to go back and hang out with them again, have a beer by the fire, that type of thing. So that all goes along, with the branding and providing that great experience and the hospitality and just tying it back to like the technology solution. It's finding a solution that's going to allow you and give you the time to focus on hospitality and the guest experience and doing all that fun stuff and not worrying about, did the person pay, is the reservation blocked on my calendar, or that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So
we just published a blog post actually from a professor at Penn State about kind of personal branding. And this whole conversation, Paul and Monique, this kind of triggered that maybe it would be worth doing a completely separate expert Q&A on just branding, because there's so much to talk about, and regardless of your technology, right? So super interesting. Okay. We'll move on. So the last part is integration. So going back to kind of that first like bubble view of connectivity, smart home, revenue management, housekeeping or maintenance, finance, tax, and there are certainly others, noise, right? I guess that kind of goes under smart home, but lots of technology solutions. So how should I, as a short-term rental homeowner, approach managing integrations and adding smart home solutions to my tech stack? So let's start with smart home. And let's start with you, Monique.
I think the reoccurring theme, in a lot of these questions and topics is, what are the most critical needs for your business? What do you can kind of manage on your own, and where do you need kind of technology and the support there to help run things more efficiently? So I think it's obviously taking a kind of bird's eye view of, how big your business is, sizing that, knowing what are the most critical technology solutions that I need to make the business run versus what can I do on my own. When it comes to smart home things, obviously the benefit there is that you're probably not living on site where the property is that you're renting out. So you want to be able to have that level of comfort to know that you can monitor noise and things like that. So those are obviously important things to consider. But I think it's kind of taking a holistic view of, where do you need technology to help you, drive your business and help you monitor things versus, what can you actually do on your own, and where do you have that level of comfort of managing it on your own as well.
Yeah, great points about how close you're kind of on site or not, right? That matters too. And then Paul, thoughts on this question?
Yeah, in a perfect world, you would say to yourself, all right, I just bought a rental property. I'm going to explore my PMS solution first. All right, I found my PMS partner, and now I'm going to look for my smart home add-ons. What we find, though, is that is not often the sequence that people will go through. They'll start, they'll buy their home, they'll start renting it out. They'll say, oh, I need automated locks, and they'll go and they'll find an automated lock, and they'll put it on their door. And then, they'll rent a little bit longer, and they'll say, oh, I actually need a software to help me with my marketing and everything. And so when approaching the smart home, one of the things that I would do first is that if you have any smart devices already in your home, make sure that any kind of property management software that you're going to be partnering with can't actually support the smart home devices that you've already invested in, because we know that those can be very expensive kind of investments. Additionally, if you're thinking about the smart home, I wouldn't bite off all smart home capabilities right from the beginning. I would dip my toe into the water with some of the kind of the base level smart home add-ons that you can add. So smart locks being kind of the easiest and the most pandemic appropriate type of smart home automation that you can do today, and then ease into some of those other kind of vendors. And so to go back of what should I look for when I'm looking for a property management solution is how many integrations do they have with smart home vendors? Do I want to be limited to one or two, or am I looking for someone that has a marketplace that can offer me, multiple options in each one of the key kind of smart home categories, whether it's smart locks or, noise awareness, as Monique said. Additionally, I think that you have to think about, as Monique pointed out, kind of your distance from your vacation rental. And honestly, a good rule of thumb is that the further away that you are, more smart home automations you should probably start looking into, right? Because there's this whole campaign out there, the Rent Responsibly campaign. And I think that, as we're seeing regulations and as people are kind of fighting their local kind of, governments on making sure that short-term rentals can sustain in the long term, I think that the smart home helps us actually track and be responsible with our guests. And so, bringing in the noise awareness, bringing in the I think that there's even like crowd awareness based on like carbon monoxide levels that some of these, smart home devices have, bringing in the thermostats and everything, being able to really control your home remotely, I think is going to be critical if you do have a, over an hour drive between your VR and where you reside.
Yeah, and I think one other, just one other, one other thing to add around, smart home technology and, products that you're adding is you're thinking about how the traveler experience and level of like engagement with the actual owner is drastically shifting, right? People now, they don't actually ever want to necessarily have to interact with a person when they get there, right? So having something like a smart lock is great because it enables it so that you can, kind of arrive at the property and you have all the information you need. And, we just a few weeks ago, Futurestay launched its partnership with Booking on the self check-in. So, having something like smart lock technology allows you to have your property be enabled for self check-in, so that it's kind of like, you check in for your flight 48 hours beforehand. As a guest at a property, you'd be able to get that information that you need, get the code, and be on your way and get into the property without actually having to interact with the owner themselves on site. We're obviously seeing that there's less desire to have that human-to-human interaction given everything going on. So just thinking about how those smart technologies can help enable your property and kind of into the future of how people want to travel and interact or not interact with someone when they're on vacation.
Oh, that's great. And we actually just this week did another expert Q&A on smart home. So if folks on the line are interested in going deeper, you can check that out. And all the things you said just kind of reinforce that, how the momentum around smart home is only going to continue to accelerate from the consumer demand side, the regulatory side. There's so much pushing us in this direction to do this better. Mm-hmm. So let's move, just doing a time check here in our last few minutes, to revenue management levers available in maybe one of your systems or other similar kind of property management marketing systems versus using an automated rate solution, and pros and cons, and what you see your clients doing maybe. Let's start with you on this one, Paul.
Sure. So I think I mentioned it at the top of the hour that Guesty really prides itself on trying to offer an in-solution solution to each critical area of kind of your operations business. And revenue management isn't. We offer a revenue management tool, but it's not as dynamic as the tools that we offer in our marketplace. So if you are looking for kind of this AI-driven, dynamic, revenue management pricing tool, you can have that service in Guesty with Beyond Pricing, Price Labs, Wheelhouse. But if you don't want to give a portion of your revenue to those tools, Guesty does offer revenue management for those smaller kind of property managers that really understand their market best. And we offer certain kind of revenue strategies that if you know that there's some sort of event that happens in the first week of October that drives a lot of volume necessarily to your particular market, you're able to mark it up without relying on a third-party integration to have that same kind of insight that you have. Also, what we saw is that a lot of our partners turned off the dynamic pricing tools during the pandemic because as regulations were either being implemented or being lifted, the dynamic pricing tools weren't responding in time to a ban or a quarantine being lifted. And so people's properties were listed at $99 a night when typically they would be $250 a night, and they booked up an entire summer season overnight without realizing that the regulations in their area were lifted. And so I think that if you have insight knowledge into your own market, that you may not need to actually use a lot of these dynamic pricing tools.
And let's go to you, Monique, on your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I think revenue management pricing, it's a very complicated and deep topic that can go a lot of different ways. I think at the end of the day, you want to make the most money for your property, right? And you want to be informed, and a lot of it just has to do with having the right data in place to make those decisions. So you can in your head think this is the price I want to price my property, but how am I compared to my market and my competitive set? So being able to look at your property in comparison to market data is obviously really important, but then also comparing that against your property's own performance. So tracking your performance and having those metrics, and how the Futurestay platform right now helps to service those needs for owners. Is we have a performance and analytics dashboard that lets you kind of see how your property performance has been, how far out are people booking, to help inform your future strategies and things like that, and then be able to kind of pull those levers of, okay, do I need to discount the property like this far out or closer in, or do I want to help incentivize some of those last minute bookers depending on the time of year. But it's really all about having the right data, and then also knowing kind of what to do with that information to make the right pricing decisions for your property.
Yeah. Monique, sorry, you just touched on a really great point, which is the pricing strategies and how they actually shift from season to season, or even during kind of the pandemic. What we saw was that the booking windows were significantly smaller. And so instead of offering these last minute booking deals, people held on to their price fidelity, and we're still seeing the same kind of occupancy rates because the guests were didn't feel comfortable booking 30 days out, but they felt comfortable booking 4 days out, 5 days out. So we saw property managers not lowering their rates
where the pricing tools would have suggested for you to cut your rate by 10, 20% to kind of fill a last minute booking. People knew that those last minute bookings would still book at a full rate, if not higher.
Yeah. And just one other thing, because Paul just said occupancy, I think, being like open-minded and flexible in your thoughts around, who can stay or who should be staying at your property. So say you have a 3-bedroom house that technically can sleep up to 6 or 8 people. That doesn't mean that's the only type of person that you should be marketing to or pricing your property to. So having a, kind of a flexible pricing strategy and really thinking, okay, well, if I charge $400 a night, I'm willing to only charge for a 6-person house. I'm willing to only charge $350 to a couple who might be okay spending that amount, might enjoy the extra space. So not kind of pigeonholing your property to only a certain occupancy really will give you the opportunity to capture some additional guests that you might not have had previously. But again, having the data to help you inform that, to know what types of travelers are looking in your region, or how far out are they looking? Is it mostly couples or is it families? Will help give you kind of the the assurance that you need to know, okay, maybe it's worth testing out a different pricing strategy for a different size group.
And I think I'll just to round this out, what I heard you say, and revenue management is just a passion of mine also in general. And we have other, training that again dives deeper on this, but the idea that there are revenue management tactics or levers available, or you can take, have that AI type technology. But I think the moral of what you're saying too, just to round it out, no matter what technology you choose, you are still kind of smarter than the system, right? Like you need to understand your market, know how to configure the system, whatever system it is that you're choosing, and then pay attention to changes in your market and then change your configuration. And understand the technology you're using, maybe would be a way to round that out.
That's right.
And then we do have a quick few minutes. If either of you have any thoughts on the housekeeping or maintenance or tax or finance, kind of, again, going back to that bubble grid, any kind of additional tech that folks might want to add on. Monique, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, it goes back to, what can you actually manage on your own? What are you comfortable doing on your own? I know I personally would not be comfortable doing my own taxes, but someone else might be. So it's, if there's certain tasks or things that you just don't have the level of knowledge or expertise in, then, that's definitely worth considering outsourcing that, that part of your business, so that again, you can, focus on, where you do have your strengths and delivering, value to your guests and to your overall business goals.
And then Paul, do you want to round this one out with any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that, when we're talking about housekeeping and maintenance, that's been a really hot topic throughout the pandemic, where I've seen a lot of smaller operators go from, self-cleaning their units to hiring kind of 74-point, cleaning companies who come in and put stickers of officially, cleaned on this day across the door jam. So there are ways to kind of help alleviate some of the concerns of your guests that are staying there if you want to make the investment on the housekeeping side. And then definitely we're talking about marketing and brand awareness. Market that as much as you can, because that is such a pressing kind of front of thought concern for a lot of the guests nowadays. And then on the tax and finance side, just make sure when you are choosing your PMS that you are able to kind of export that information, because it's hard to believe that any PMS is going to be as efficient as QuickBooks. So you want to make sure that you're enabling QuickBooks or Exemplify or whoever with that data.
Oh, that's great. And then just a reminder kind of on Astro, we have more education on this as a member, continue to get you access to experts as a member, and we have a 14-day free trial. So come check us out and follow us. We're everywhere in social. So with that, I'll say thanks and kind of stop sharing my screen here and see if there's any last questions in the chat. I don't see any chat, so I think you must have done a good job of just answering everything.
Hopefully we didn't put everyone to sleep.
No, I think that was great. Yeah, thanks for also playing along with kind of the ad hoc, like deeper dives we did throughout the hour. That wasn't as scripted as as you may have thought. So you guys did a great job.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. It was great. And it was great to kind of, chat, just the three of us and with Paul, and just kind of bounce ideas off each other, and also share, how our different platforms help to solve a lot of these pain points for the small independent property owners.
Yeah, and it's a lot. So there were some really great takeaways, and thanks to both of you. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Monique. And we'll do it again soon. So have a good one.
Great.
Take care. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Bye now.